Hello, everyone. My name is Keely Denenberg. I'm Senior VP of Client Solutions here at Orange Grove Consulting, and I'm joined by Dr. Jodi Detjen, Managing Partner at Orange Grove. Hi, Jodi.
Hi.
So today we are talking about some HR trends that that are out there for 2025. And Gartner had a prediction 4 or 5 top HR trends that we are going to run through really quickly. The first one is leadership development. The second one is organizational culture. The third is change management, which is one of Jodi's favorite topics. Fourth is supporting new process development, because that's going to be a part of all of these changes. And the fifth, last but not least, is HR technology and workforce planning. So, Jodi, I know you have thoughts on these trends. So let's just start there at a high level.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting is that if you look at the wider environment, of course, there's a lot of chaos, a lot of change happening, but there's also a real big drive towards automation, towards AI, towards using technology more effectively. And all of this is driving change within organization, which so often falls in the lap of HR and operations. And so the idea of it is to think of it as, yes, these changes are happening, but how can we be thoughtful and planful instead of reactive and overwhelmed by them? They are here. So what can we do? We can use change management processes to help think through how do we manage this change more effectively. So we can think about what are the processes and how are they going to change? How will our culture adapt to be more adaptable, to be more planful, to be also more excited and innovative? And then how do we bring in the leadership development tools to help leaders lead proactively in this type of environment?
Excellent. Thank you. So, as you think about it and you think about technology, especially AI, what are you envisioning, HR leaders are going to need to think about when it comes to that particular topic? Because we see it everywhere. I'm starting to see workshops by providers. What's your take on it?
I think what's happening in operations, it's been happening for a while now, it's starting to happen in HR, is that we have this more data-driven decision-making process. AI is a tool that can help us understand what's happening in HR more effectively. It can also automate some of the draws. So for example, I know you and I both use it to think about, here are some thoughts, help us put them together, and then we take it to the next level. Saves hours of time a week because it's allowing us to do the thoughtful processing without having to do some of the drudgery work. But that means you have to think about it in a much more proactive and responsive way. You've got to think about, what do I do? What is my process? How do I manage these things? And then where do the technology tools, where does AI help me make this process either more effective or more efficient? The idea here is to not say, how can I get rid of jobs? I think that's the wrong way to look at it. The goal is to look at it from a process outcome perspective. What is the outcome that I am trying to achieve with this particular concept, with this particular process? And based on that, how can I make that process more efficient and more effective so that I can focus on the problems that I really want? So let's just take, for example, say you're in customer service and you're spending 70, 80% on just rudimentary drudge stuff that just isn't really very effective. If we can flip that so that AI and technology can take away the drudgery so that you can spend more of your time on cultivating the relationships with customers and spending more time being patient, now we're talking. I use this example of, I had this conversation with two travel, one was airlines, one was like a cruise. And in both cases, I ran into this upfront problem with their phone system. Of course, you have to get through the 15, tip 1, 2, or whatever. And I could tell that they had used AI more in the process. And here's what I was thinking. All they did was they took AI and they made their process a little bit nicer and friendlier, and you maybe changed some of the wording. Instead, why not change the whole process? Why? I still ended up being very frustrated and angry with the process. And there was a process last night when I tried to use, I couldn't even get through to a person because of the strictures. Instead, why don't we think about, how do we use AI and technology to solve the problem of the customer and rethink the process altogether, rather than automate what we already have? So I think there's an incredible opportunity for us to rethink things and to do things with diligence and thoughtfulness, and use change management to help us create a culture that is much more focused on our stakeholders and our outcomes.
I love that. It's not just a little kind of cog in the wheel, you rethink the whole wheel. So, with that said, tell everyone how we could help in a situation like that. How could we come in and facilitate that process?
Most important thing about any process is if you have to understand the process as it happens today. So how do we get the data about what is actually happening in that process today? Maybe it's a time use study. Maybe it's looking at data analytics, like for example, the talent hiring process. What are all the micro steps and what's happening in each one of these steps? You have to identify the problems in the process before you can start to rethink it. Then you can go through the process and say, what is it that we're trying to do here? Could be that some of the processes could be completely eliminated. Maybe we're doing a bunch of reporting, for example, that nobody's actually using. Or maybe we can create a system whereby we identify what we're trying to achieve and we get that data, and then we create some programs around automating that data. So by looking at it from a process view, very focused on the outcome and the stakeholder experience, using design thinking, we can actually create a lot more effectiveness and efficiency in the process. And then we have data along the whole way to tell us how well we're doing. And then we adapt to it.
Wonderful. And roll out a process for everyone at the organization to get on board and be excited about the change.
That's where the culture and the leadership development comes in, because if you don't manage this as a change process and you don't bring in new ways of thinking about leadership or new ways that the culture should change, it will fail. So we always talk about it. You got to change the process. You got to change the leadership, not the leader people, but the leader approach.
Yeah, mindset. Yes.
You got to change the culture. You got to change the incentives. And then you got to train the people. You got to give people the skills. If you can do all five of those, you're going to be okay. If you do only one of them, you're going to fail. And we know that 80 to 85% of all change processes fail to meet the outcomes and objectives that they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
We know this, it's just a matter of doing it. And people like us who know this, we can help a lot.
Right, right. Yeah, that third party, we're objective. It's very helpful.
We're process oriented. We know what to do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we're excellent at looking at current state. So thank you for your time. Thank you everyone for watching. Check back to our YouTube channel for more mini conversations like this one. Take care.